American Dreams, the program where we interview thought leaders and entrepreneurs and bring their ideas to you in real world context. Hi, this is Alan Olson, and welcome to American Dreams. My guest today is Steve Distante. He's the founder at the Vanderbilt Financial Group. Steve, welcome to today's show.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, Steve, you have a very unique background, and Vanderbilt Financial is not where you started. And so I'd like to have you take us through some of the companies that you've helped to found and been associated with, and then we'll bring up today about Vanderbilt Financial and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a lifetime entrepreneur. I've been doing this entrepreneur thing since I was 6 years old. My first business was actually going up to the trails behind my parents' house and collecting horse manure and selling it to my neighbors for their gardens. Love gardening. I use entrepreneurship as my way of communicating, and as I like to say, I've been selling shit ever since.
Well, that's very unique. I tell you, my dad had the idea early in life of when I was in junior high, going down to the dairy farm and collecting manure, and we ended up growing a garden of oats.
There you go. You go.
Anyway, I think you probably had a little bit better luck with the horse manure than the...
I did. My whole journey has been peppered with entrepreneurship. So fast forward to 18 years old, I owned a limousine and I would drive people to their proms and things. It got me into, as Tony Robbins likes to say, proximity of people. And that's actually how I met my wife, as I drove her to her prom. And she didn't like what was going on inside of her prom. She spent, a few hours with me talking, and once the check cleared, I ended up giving her a ring, and the rest was history. Been married for over 33 years. So business has always been my history of being able to connect things. And so I went to St. John's. I got my degree in accounting because it was the language of all businesses. I had this wonderful professor who said, learn this stuff and you'll understand business better than most entrepreneurs. And I'm like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to understand it. Worked for the big 8 accounting firms, started a small firm as a an accountant, and then got into the financial services end of the business. And one of the partners in the firm that I was working with was licensed, and I saw people come in, and it was the only way for them to understand financial services was to go to their accountant. So that worked out really well for me. I expanded. I got licensed. I expanded. At my peak, I had 33 tax offices, and we did about 37,000 returns. I didn't do one of them, of course. We had this network. And then, I was licensed for financial services. I had some advisors under me as an OSJ, as an Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction or a branch. And I broke off and purchased my own broker-dealer and RIA. That was the beginning. And I learned that I did not love the regulatory environment within the financial services world. It's like guilty until proven innocent, especially if you have an Italian last name like me, Distante, and you live on Long Island. That means you run a very bad firm. So I had to constantly be looking at that. And it was one day that somebody came to me through the Entrepreneurs Organization, an organization I'm very, very passionate about, and said, Steve, what do you do? And I said, well, I own a financial services firm, broker-dealer, RIA, just like I said. And he's like, no, what do you do? I said, what do you mean? He goes, in the world, like, why do you matter? And I said, well, we have a foundation called Heroes Against Heroin, where we raise capital for people to send their loved ones to treatment for an extended period of time. He goes, that's good. I said, if you Google Tesla's biggest fan or Tesla's number one fan, I'm the first hit on Google. So I said, I do a lot of crazy car things. He goes, that's good. And I said, my building is LEED Platinum, which is the highest level of green efficiency. I've got 295 solar panels that power our building. 98% of our electric is from the sun. I've got carpets that are from old fish nets that small fishing villages would take the nets and normally throw them overboard to collect debris, kill wildlife. This cool company went and made these carpets out of it. And I started going on and on, low volatile compound paints. And I've got a passion for doing good things. And he says to me, well, I'm an impact attorney and I go and find investments for billionaires and multimillionaires in things that are impactful, things that align with their values, their mission in life. And I said, huh. He goes, yeah. And they're always looking for deals. Well, that was the beginning of my awakening of impact investing. And suddenly I became the guy who really believed that that was the reason I was put on earth, to align people's values with their passions and have an impact with the money that they invest. So fast forward to today, I am now a farmer, a filmmaker, founder of my firm, Vanderbilt Financial Group. But I did a film on impact entrepreneurship while I was the UN ambassador for entrepreneurship through the Entrepreneurs Organization. So I was the guy who brought entrepreneurs to the United Nations. And what I taught the entrepreneurs was all about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that the UN had created, which is a 15-year agenda, started in 2015, ends in 2030. And it really does a great job of illustrating some of the greatest challenges that we have in the world. So I created this film because I created the first entrepreneur meeting or group. It was a full day, actually more than a full day, a day and a half at the UN for entrepreneurs to come from all over the world to meet the dignitaries and to learn about the SDGs. My film premiered there. It's called Igniting Impact. And that's where I got to meet a lot of people. That connects to my next endeavor. I met a woman named Wendy Burton, and Wendy owns a company called WorldTree, and they wanted to raise capital. They wanted to raise $10.5 million. I did due diligence for about 2 years of that company. They plant a very special tree. It's called a Paulownia tree, and the tree grows to full growth in 10 years. As a matter of fact, I have a piece. This is a 7-year-old tree that you can barely see. You see the rings in there? Oh, they're huge. And this tree grows rapidly. It's non-invasive. There is a invasive variety, but the ones we grow are not invasive. And they grow inside of that 10-year period, and they draw down, I believe it's 11 times the carbon of any tree on Earth. So I did due diligence. We did the capital raise, all worked out great. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, well, you learned all about this stuff. Let's see if we could do it ourselves. And the beauty of it was that at the end of that 10-year period, when you cut it down, it grew another 7 to 10 times. So you create these sustainable forests. So, and the wood is estimated to be worth between $100,000 and $200,000 per acre. So I acquired a farm in Georgia. I did lots of due diligence, kind of figured out my way and found a property that really worked out well. It's in a place called Greenville, Georgia, and it's a 360-acre farm. And I just planted my first 20 acres, and my commitment is to plant 20 acres a year for 10 years. And then in year 10, guess what happens? We start harvesting. And I'm already working on honey production. I'm working on, I just worked on my ability to grow hemp between. I just applied for the license, what we call intercropping, because these trees are on a 20 by 20 grid. There's 20 feet between them, and growing something meaningful in between is good. So it's just, my life has taken this wonderful, purposeful direction. And it's kind of something that's been within me forever, but these opportunities as they arose just kept elevating the whole mission. And now with these trees, I'm looking at Puerto Rico to grow. I'm looking at all sorts of other places. Meanwhile, still being founder and chairman of my firm, because that's really important for me to be able to manage the billions of dollars that we have under management and allow people to invest in a way that's congruent with their values and passions. So sorry I went on for so long, but that's in a nutshell of what I'm doing.
I'm just curious, why Georgia? I mean, you're a Long Island guy, and
Yeah. So I'm kind of a JoJo guy now. Got 3 houses on the property, 3 lakes, and it's a retreat property. So I get to host wonderful people there. But Georgia, when I started looking, I'd asked World Tree, where should I grow? They connected me with a forester, a guy who's got his doctorate in forestry. And we started identifying areas, and Georgia, because of its growing season, we probably could look at growing from February, March until November. That's a pretty long growing season. The particular piece of tree that I have here, that if they're just listening, you can't put your arms around it. It's that big. The places we looked had to have a certain soil type, a certain pH level, which we can affect. And also you gotta look out for storms like, tornadoes and that sort of thing. There's ways of managing that risk, but the area in Georgia that I am in has not had a tornado in over 100 years. So it kind of works for me. Not that that couldn't change tomorrow, but that's why Georgia.
so in addition to the impact investing that we talked about, you also started Impact U,
Yes.
which is, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what the model is about?
So Impact You is my mantra. I want to impact you, Alan. I want to impact the people who are listening to this to say, wow, yeah, I could do something like that. I got some land. I could plant these trees, or I didn't know that I can invest in direct correlation with what I feel is important, gender equality, climate change. I mean, name it. People have certain interests. Not everybody's the same. Everybody's got different life experiences. But Impact U is a brand that I've developed. I've got impactu.films instead of .com. It's .films. That's where my impact films are. I've got 2. I'm about to do a film on the trees now. I've just started doing that. I've got Impact U, which is .me, which is a university for people to learn about impact investing, and Impact U Investments, which is a broker dealer that I acquired simply for deals. I'm in the process of writing a book, which will be done by the end of this year. The title is Pitch Slapped, pitch with a P, and it talks about raising capital. And often I know we have in common Dan Sullivan, right? Dan's a great guy. He asks us that question, who do you want to be a hero to? And my hero, I want to be a hero to entrepreneurs. So with writing my book, Pitch Slapped, I'm teaching people how to storytell, how to not just throw your pitch at people and say, hey, did you read my deck? Well, I got to be honest. I don't know about you, Alan, but I don't read people's decks because they mean something to them. They don't mean anything to me when I look at them. I kind of breeze through them and go, all right, now explain what the heck this means to me. People are interested in the entrepreneur. And so Pitch Slap is a further iteration of people being able to learn how to raise capital, especially for people who are impactful for their businesses so that they can scale and grow. And teaching impactful entrepreneurs and students is my mission with the book, to educate, inspire, and celebrate people who are using their businesses, but now allow them to understand. The book will then be followed by a course where you could be part of a cohort. And then I have a platform where you could actually put your offering onto for people to understand. And that'll all be under the Impact U brand. So Impact U is all about being impactful, giving impactful opportunities. And, what I've learned while writing this book. So yesterday's guest, I've done the book a little different, as you probably could imagine. I did work with Scribe Media, with Tucker Max, right? So Tucker's working with me on that, his company, Scribe Media. I'm also working with a company called High Tide. They're the ones that are doing the course material afterwards. So they're doing all of that good stuff. I've learned how to sequentially do this, but what I'm doing different in this is I'm doing my book through distilled podcasts. So yesterday I had Michael E. Gerber, the E-Myth person. I've had Peter Diamandis. I've had Dan Sullivan. I've had Tucker Max. I've had Vern Harnish, the guy that's behind Scaling Up and so on. And so being able to allow people to read the book, but then also with a QR code, zip over to the podcast to hear the actual words in the interview is part of the multimedia experience that I'm looking to give people. Because I know as entrepreneurs, we don't hear things so well, maybe when we read them, or what we do is we take it, stick it into the gears of our brain and say, ooh, I could do this with it. I know we could do that with it. So I want to give everybody a chance to really get a fair shake at their capital raises and teach them some best practices. Because the reality is, when you're doing a capital raise, they want to know you, the entrepreneur, and the people who are interested in putting money into deals. My biggest audience is us entrepreneurs, because we get a thrill out of it. We could be part of something cool. We'll hopefully get some money back. We could be part of the board or advisory council. So it's just a cool way to evolve as an entrepreneur, to be a hero to fellow entrepreneurs in an area that I know really well.
Well, Steve, you're really fun to visit with, especially from the entrepreneurial standpoint, and giving the entrepreneur tools of, we live in an evolving and a changing world, and nothing is staying constant right now. And I think the fact that you're constantly rethinking the wheel, and how do you redeploy, how do you give opportunities to those entrepreneurs to adjust into what's before them, I think it's just miraculous. I look forward to seeing your book when it comes out. What I like to do when that book is getting ready to be released, I'd like to have you come back and let's have another visit about that to get the word out, get some copies distributed. So.
Absolutely. I would love that. Thank you so much, Alan.
Okay. I've been visiting here today with Steve Distante. He is impact investor, is the founder of Vanderbilt Financial, and also helping entrepreneurs talk about how to impact you. But Steve, before we go, I gotta, this is a burning question to me. It's like, looking in the future, where would you like to be in 5 years with all of this?
I would like to have agreements and implemented some plantings of trees in Africa for reforestation. We're working on that. And we're working on South America right now through a tissue culture lab. So I have a fully functional tissue culture lab that allows us to create plantlets and trees. I will be on my 5th planting of trees at Cali Farms, the farm that we have now. My firm just continues to grow. The footprint that we have made in the impact space is very attractive to younger advisors and women advisors, believe it or not. That's our key audience. We have the highest percentage of financial advisors that are female in the industry. And so to continue to grow that, I'd love my assets under management to be somewhere around the $20 billion mark. And I would love to see some honey production from my trees that'll flower for 5-6 weeks. That'll be pretty cool too. Other than that, I probably haven't dreamt the dreams. And, we'll be raising lots and lots of capital and empowering entrepreneurs to scale and grow, especially if they're impactful. That's where I see myself in 5 years.
Well, very good. Well, we'll look forward to staying in touch and having you come back on your book release in the near future.
Thank you very much, Alan. Pleasure to be with you today.